I can hear you.
Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well. No note takers. So as we prepare for the celebration of 250 years in the United States soon, obviously we got some Patriots on, so that's fantastic. If you happen to be a Canadian listener, the first is coming up on Wednesday, so there'll also be some flags, occasional flags. That's a little bit different event on the Canadian side. But if you're in Calgary, you're also celebrating the Calgary Stampede, which is starting on Thursday, I believe. So 1.3 million people will show up and have a big party and take over the city. So we're talking a little bit today about obviously service and service calls. So we have some experts on from one of our great sponsors, Numa. If you don't know Numa, reach out to Derek and his team or reach out to Peter or myself. And of course, we have Karen on as well, who's a little camera shy. She's been doing a lot of traveling from what I understand. So two really heavy hitting experts on the topic. I thought I would start with Karen because she was on first, and that's generally how I roll or how we roll. So Karen, please introduce yourself and talk about the secret to great phone, or what we like to call good phone or great phone skills in the service side of the business.
Well, my name is Karen Dhillion. I have Profit Keeper Pro, which is a fixed ops software.
Okay.
As far as great phone calls and service, frankly, I think the very first thing dealer, general manager, service manager needs to do is mystery shop the store. They need to make that call. And I think many would be shocked at how poorly the calls are handled. And then they can take necessary action. But I don't think I have occasion, of course, because of my business, to call service departments every day. And it's just astonishing how poorly the calls are handled.
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, I think even on the sales side, it's shocking how many calls are dropped. But next, we got Derek, the one and the only from Numa. Derek, maybe you can talk a little bit more about, the importance of great phone calls, but more importantly, I guess, how many are missed that could not be missed in service?
Yeah, that's a really interesting setup there. I think if you look at what we've learned over the past 4.5 years answering calls and service with our AI is that there's two things that happen. One, people don't answer the phone in service because they're bad people. They don't answer the phone in service because they're actually overwhelmed. They're literally at a point where, they have way too much stuff going on and they're literally overwhelmed. And so one of the things that we see is that we want to make sure that we're helping them across the whole entire process, not just in that one instance when the phone rings so that they can become more proactive in their jobs. But the next part is, if you want to talk about a good phone call, think about where the data lives for a customer in a dealership today. One of the things that we're seeing right now is that you have the answers to the customer's questions. You don't have the ability to get to them in a timely fashion. And if you want to look at where AI is going in 2026, it's pulling that data together into one concise place from multi different sources, DMS, CRM, OEM, that are getting all that together and allowing the AI to have a better interaction with the customer because it's context aware. And it's not just sitting there as a single point solution trying to stumble and bumble and fumble its way through a call. So I just spoke at the NCM Fueling Fixed Ops event. I just spoke at another event last week. And one of the things, the messaging that I keep telling the dealers is, you've got 3 minutes on a call with a customer to get that appointment scheduled or handle their question. And the only way you can do that is having your team trained on how to access the data. We see 50% of the calls that ring into a dealership that are calling to schedule an appointment that actually have declined service from the past visit that nobody's talking about, right? And so we really believe that this is a key opportunity for the dealers that they can grow their business today, because it's an additional $200 in RO when you offer that declined service from the last visit and you get the customer to agree to it. So big opportunities there. And I think that really, when it comes down to it, we just need to stay focused on making it easier for the dealerships to see that entire visibility of the customer experience so that they can talk intelligently when the customer calls in.
Thanks for that. So we got Scott. Yeah. He's new on the show. So Scott, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about it. No worries. talk us a little bit more about what you do and how you do it, and also what you think on what's a great phone call in your mind.
A couple of things. So first off, I'm Scott Traylor, Vice President, co-founder of Dhillion Labs. We are a voice conversational AI application that we partner with dealerships so we can answer phone calls inside the dealership. And history-wise, being a dealer for 20 years, I used to see this pain point day after day after day, taught me a lot of good lessons. And one of the lessons was it's not a coaching problem. It's not a training problem. It's a math problem. We have done so well at digital marketing, digital ads, and we got so much volume coming into these stores. It's absolutely impossible for the human beings to control. And that's what we have to leverage the call. So a good call for me, in my definition, is a call that's answered on the first attempt of a consumer trying to do business in your store. The problem is 30% of all the calls coming in a store don't get answered on their first attempt. Just let that resonate for a second. That's from call review and call wars that put that stat up there, 30%. You got people trying to spend money in your store and they can't get anybody on the phone. Again, it's not coaching, it's a math problem. And so when you leverage technology, like what we do at NIA, there is no capacity issue. The customer gets it answered on the first attempt. They get answers to the questions that they have, and that turns into a really good experience for the consumer. If you start with a good experience, it transfers when they get on the service lane, and it becomes a good experience for the service advisor with their connection with the client when they get on the service line. So I think we need to answer the call immediately, answer the questions immediately, and service the customer immediately on the first attempt of them getting their making a phone call into the dealership.
Thanks so much for that. So obviously, service departments, some of them have BDCs, some of them have centralized BDCs. Some of them have individual BDCs. Some of them even have like one person doing that. Service writers and everybody else are answering those calls. So the question is, and I'm going to start with Derek on this one. How do you think, AI technology can work with a BDC or can leverage that? Or if you don't have a BDC as a smaller dealer, maybe you have some service writers who can't answer the phone. How does that work together? Like, how does that work?
I think let's go back one step and let's just talk about BDC first, right? Okay. Two things that we see with BDCs. If the BDC gets the call, they usually handle it professionally. Love that, right? So there is the if there that they get the call correctly, which, as everybody on this podcast knows, call routing inside of a dealership is not exactly good all the time. So when the BDC gets the call and they handle it professionally, what do they do next? If it's an internal BDC, how many times have, Scott, I know you've seen this, where the BDC actually writes a note on a yellow sticky note and then walks out and sticks it on the advisor's keyboard or monitor to get them to handle it? Or it's an external BDC, what do? They send in an email to the advisor, right? And so what we end up having is a good experience where the BDC actually handled the call correctly, and then we have a bad experience on the transfer back to the dealership, right? And that's where the accountability gets lost, and that's where the real problem comes in. And so when you look at this, the one thing that I talk to dealers about all the time, the reason why technology like me or like Numa works is because A, we answer the call, there's no capacity restraint, and B, if the call requires a human, one of the things that we do is we put that human on the clock, and they got 15 minutes to handle it or it gets escalated, right? We don't let these things sit to the end of the day when the advisor's like, oh crap, I got to go through all those emails from the BDC. Like literally, it started with a good experience with the customer talking to a professional person in the BDC, and then went to a bad experience because nobody ever followed up on that. And so we really want to make sure that we coordinate the efforts between the AI and the human at the dealership. We hold them accountable to the behavior that we need to get done. And then ultimately we push that customer through the process no matter where it needs to go. Either the AI resolves it or the AI gets assistance from the human in the loop and then moves it on. And we work really well with BDCs because of this. And the BDC agents will tell us, you guys give us superpowers, right? One of the things that's common between me and Numa is that we both can schedule appointments for service, right? And I'm just using that as the most basic thing. But if you look at the amount of phone calls that ring in to a BDC, they're overwhelmed between status update phone calls and appointment requests that they don't actually get to do the job of the BDC, which is business development, right? What's business development? That means that we're making outbound phone calls, right? That we're following up on marketing efforts, that we're doing those different things. When you can offload that and you can have the AI take those calls and schedule those appointments on the incoming calls and free the BDC up to do it, we're seeing a 300% increase in throughput in business development centers on outbound phone calls on a monthly basis. Like, that's huge, because that gets us back to what the goal was with the BDC, right? So I hope that answered the question in a way that made sense.
I mean, I used to say, yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Just tying in what Derek said, because one of the things that Scott brought up as well, and I want to point this out because I love the use of technology and making the calls better for the dealers and get people there. But one of the things that Derek just mentioned is increasing the profitability. And there's part that I want to bring into this conversation is one of the challenges that service advisors have, they do not have enough time to properly communicate with the customers is right in front of them. The reason why I love using the AI technology for the inbound calls is it takes that responsibility away from the service advisors. Service advisors are busy, they're very high turnover rate. Part of it is it's a very stressful job. But most importantly, dealers want more selling on the service drive. And if you want to increase your sales in the service drive, you need to take this piece, in my opinion, as an ex-dealer, away from the service advisor, give it to the AI or the BDC. So the service advisor, when he's standing there with Mr. Jones, he's not hearing his phone ring and having to answer calls, make return phone calls, answer emails like we talked about. He's able to sit there and spend the quality time with the customer, walking him through what else needs to be done. Someone mentioned, I think it was Scott, about the client service. The client service is one of the biggest mistakes that's being missed by dealers, but it all goes back to the service advisor doesn't have the time. And that's one thing that I love about this conversation. Not only are we talking about how we're going to improve that experience, but also the dealer, when they look at this process, they're going to make more money at the end of the day by taking this responsibility away from the service advisor, or at least helping him with it.
100%.
Peter's spot on. I'd love to jump in. Peter is spot on this. As an AI leader and a leader in automotive, I always see that if there's 10 steps to the sales process, regardless of if you're selling a car or selling service, if there's 10 steps, you leverage AI in step 1 and 2 and 9 and 10. And so you leverage AI to get them in front of a human being. And after the human being is separated from the staff member, you use AI to get them back in front of the human being. And so that declining service aspect is huge. But to Peter's point, if I go into ABC Chevy, ABC new car dealer, and go on the service lane, I got a service advisor that's got a cell phone in his hand, office line in his hand, his computer maybe he's working with a customer, and a human being standing in front of him. But if I go to leadership training, the first thing they're going to tell me to do is focus, minimize distractions, time block, and then you'll be able to get more productivity. But I expect the exact opposite of the staff members. To me, that's just not right. And that's the exact space where we can leverage technology to, first off, answer the calls like we were speaking to earlier. But to Peter and Derek's point, Mia, we can make the outbound call and the outbound text for your client services, for recalls, for special order parts to drive business into the service lane. Again, 1 and 2 and 9 and 10, we can leverage that technology to create a human connection. And that's where the magic happens. But I've never, in my entire career, walked into my dealership and had salesmen or service advisors tell me, I am so happy to make 150 phone calls today. I've never once had one human being look me in the eye and say, I am so excited, got my coffee, and I'm ready to make 150 dials. I'm ready to smile and down today. Never happened.
They can't do it. They can't.
No, they can't.
They can't do it.
Well, the average person, even at scale, even as a BDC professional who does it full time, in 2026, I'd be shocked if they can dial any more than 60 or 70. But Karen, we haven't talked to you in a minute. What's your opinion on how many dials a person can make outside of AI? What do you think?
Oh, there's no question that today, in 90% of the dealerships, the service advisors still do not have the time they need to spend with their customer. And part of that is Um, I think, like Scott said, there's so much phone. There's a phone, there's a cell phone, there's a computer, there's everything, and it makes it very difficult for them to do their job, which is to sell service. So
Yeah.
I do believe that AI can really make a difference in dealership.
So
But it has to be set up so that if a customer does have another question that can't be answered, they need to be able to talk to somebody right away.
what's
And
your,
not,
oh, go ahead. So what's your experience? I mean, you're talking to dealers all the time, and you're talking to them obviously about AI. I mean, what advice are you giving dealers on it? I mean, you know, being that you're embedded in dealers all the time, what do you think?
well, what I think is they need, again, I'm going to go right back to say they need to mystery shop their store.
Right.
And find out if they have AI, how well it's working, or does it need some tweaks? Or if they don't have it, first of all, why not? But second of all, are the people answering the phone doing what they should do? Like I said, I call many dealerships every day, and I'm just shocked at how poorly the calls are handled.
So, you know, when you're in a dealer and you're obviously calling dealers at scale, you're in dealerships, would you say that the average dealer that you deal with, there'd be a big upside for them, or what's your opinion?
I think a good product, a good AI product is very beneficial for the dealership, very beneficial. However, there are some that I've called with AI that need to make some changes. But the service advisor is not the person that should be taking any inbound calls.
Okay. So there's clearly a problem. It's just a question of finding the right solution, in your opinion.
Find the right solution.
Fantastic. So obviously
And
there's
you understand that they have a problem.
Yeah, obviously it's danger in some cases. And we were at NADA this year, and we were at the new booth interviewing a lot of different people, including some dealers. Derek, I mean, what do you tell the dealer who says, "I know I have a problem, Derek. I can't answer the phone. My people can't make 150 calls a day, but I'm worried that, you know, AI is not gonna be able to solve it." I mean, what do you tell that dealer who's afraid of it? What do you say?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And I'll tell you how much the world's changed. You know, 4 years ago, it was, well, I might consider AI, or I might do nothing. And now, Scott will tell you the same thing. It's not AI or nothing, it's which AI, right?
Yeah.
And the decision that the dealer has to make is around the idea of how the AI fits into the process. Ultimately, you can have the greatest AI on the planet, and if it doesn't align with how the dealer does business, you're going to fail, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, this is just, we all know this. It's any kind of software deployment is going to be the same thing. If you look at DMSs, the reality is the average dealer probably only uses about 20% of the power of the DMS because it doesn't align with the process, right? And so when I talk to dealers about AI, one of the things that I say to them consistently is, look, you can have the best AI on the planet. If you put it in the wrong place in the process, it's not going to do anything. We have to figure out how you do business, and then how does the AI fit into how you do business, and then we can move this forward together. So there's two reasons that people decide to go to AI today, I believe. One is to drive operational efficiencies, potentially getting a headcount cut, right? I can do more with less people, so that lowers the amount of people I have. Or two, drive operational efficiencies so I can grow with the existing people that I have today, right? Those are actually two totally different use cases when you look at how the dealer moves forward. And with the headwinds that we're facing in sales this year, I think that there's still growth in fixed absorption and service business. I think that the headwinds in sales have a lot of people paying attention to headcount, right? And so at the end of the day, the dealer's decision on how he wants to move his business forward is going to determine which AI or where they put the AI, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's a critical piece of the conversation that you have to have. This is not, and I imagine I'm putting words in Scott's mouth, but it's not a one size fits all kind of like, hey, here's the perfect installation.
Yeah.
Good luck, God bless. Like, we have to figure out how do we actually match and mirror and move forward with what the dealership has. Because to your point earlier, they could have an internal BDC. They could have service advisors who, Karen, I agree, we don't want them answering the phone. We could have an external BDC. We could have nothing. We could have a warranty clerk that randomly picks up the phone when she's not on the call with the OEM, right? Everybody does business differently. And so we have to find that and define it, and then we can move forward with how this works in the dealership. So it's just, I think it's a really interesting conversation that AI is not going away, right? And dealers know this, and AI is giving results. It's about the results that the dealer wants to get and how they get there.
Fantastic.
That's the big thing.
Thanks for that. So Scott, I mean, obviously a dealer goes, AI, I'm scared. I'm intimidated. My team's worried. I mean, I did an interview with a large dealer group, and his big concern, or maybe not concern, but his big feedback from his team was, oh, we're going to be replaced by the bots. The evil empire's coming for us. What do you say to a dealer who has that point of view, or even their team members in service or sales?
There's a couple of things. The first off is the immediate answer to the fear. AI is not here to replace the human being. Car sales will always be a human connection business. Even with as big as Carvana as it is, they've only shown about 12% of the penetration in the market for doing sales without a human connection. That means 88% of the market wants a human connection. And so that's not going anywhere. And that's what we have to respect. It's a relational business on the business side. It's a relational business on the consumer side. That's what's wanted. Where AI can get involved is making that more efficient to get humans and humans together. Having said that, I've been in this business long enough with some of the individuals on this call to remember when I used to get my leads on a fax machine. I am old enough to remember when I used to have meetings about if my advertisement in the local newspaper, if I was buying the ad above the fold or below the fold, and how many classified ads I was going to buy so I could advertise my call to get the phone to ring. I also remember managing my inventory with a Word doc or a spreadsheet or on the wall. I remember this, okay? And when people started saying, you have to get a website, what is that? Why do I have to get a website? We're in that space. We're in that transitional space where somebody came in the door and said, you have to get a website, you have to get a CRM, you need an inventory management system. We're in that space. The genie's not getting back in the bottle. And so for the individuals, if I'm being really blunt force trauma answering the fear, I'd be more afraid of not participating with AI and getting lapped by my competitor down the street than I am about any fear about AI, the magic AI taking my job, because that's not truth. That's not real. The salespeople are going to be there, the service advisors are going to be there, and we're going to be able to make connections more efficiently and give the consumer what they want and give the dealer what they deserve as well. Those 30% of missed calls almost evaporate overnight as soon as you turn it on. And that's the key. So I'd be more afraid of not getting involved and being lapped by my competitor across the street than I would be about feelings and emotions that don't measure up to truth.
Thanks for that. So Peter, what do you think on as you talk to dealers? I mean, we talk to dealers on the show every single week, but we also do a lot of interviews with dealers. I mean, what are you hearing on that from the dealer side or from the manufacturer side, since we're doing a lot of that now too?
Well, it's funny because Scott, I will say, I don't think you look too young to remember all those things. So I'm just throw that out there. I mean,
brother, I'm over 55, man.
Okay, well, the great period is quite frankly, I can remember that too. It was just the crazy days back, because when I started, back in '87, it was all that craziness. But I remember exactly what you're talking about when I was talking to dealers back then and talking about, websites and things like that. And it was like, oh, do I really need one of those websites? And so I think you're right. We are at that point. A lot of the dealers I talk to, it's funny, you have an interesting conversation there because they all want better results. And that's why Karen Dhillion's business, she got a lot of background. She's been around with all these companies involving service appointments and scheduling. And so she's really got a deep knowledge. But her new business is all about, tracking. And it's funny, I talked to some clients and I'll hear from Karen. She gives me some people to talk to, and they all want better numbers. They want their service advisors to be selling more. They want their fixed ops departments to be doing better. They're all looking at all these systems, and they're looking at the numbers, and they're all carefully dissecting what's going on. But the end of the day is they've got to change their mindset. Dealers have got to change their mindset and understand the process. And that's where I love what you guys are talking about. We got to get into the store, look at the process. And I got to tell you, it's like 50-50. Some dealers I talk to, and they understand it, but the other ones are like, they got their head in the sand like an ostrich. And they just want better numbers, but they're not willing to make a change. So I don't know what it's going to take to get them to make a change, but when they make that change and a light switch goes off and they see the value of improving the conversation, I'm not sure who it was who said it, I will reiterate it time and time again. Call your dealership. Have your wife call the dealership and try and make an appointment. It is so frustrating. I called a dealer. I finally called him on his cell phone. I said, I've called you 3 times at the store. It's one thing to be censored. I'm not even being censored, they're literally disconnecting the call. Oh, I'll transfer you, and I get disconnected. Can you imagine if I was somebody wanting to buy a car and you did that to me? I would be calling your competition. So whoever said it on the call, that recommendation, I tell everybody who's attending on all the dealers, all people, take a second, call and try and schedule an appointment yourself. You will be blown away by how bad the experience is.
Yeah, we have a question actually. Let's just say I want to do AI. Obviously, I heard all about it any day this year and over the last couple of years. How difficult is it for you to customize that to my store or my brand? Derek, maybe you can answer that. Like what does that look like for the dealer who's afraid and doesn't know, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way it works with Numa is that we start out everything with a whole lot of discovery. So you're going to go through a personalization and customization meeting with your implementation manager and your performance architect. We're going to learn about how you do business. Then we have our AI actually shop your store, and we run a massive set of reports that goes out and finds every phone number that's published for the dealership. Then we come back and we look at how these phone numbers actually route through the store. We look at all the call routing, all the call groups, all the hunt groups, all the things that are there to make it up. And then we say, what are your actual business use goals? And then we set those and we put the KPIs in place to match. And then every 90 days, we're doing a quarterly business review looking at it. So the big thing is that we do a whole lot of discovery before we even show up. And then before we actually get there in the field to do the launch at your store, you're already live. It's already tested. The AI is ready to go. We flip the switch, we train the people, and then we launch. But all of that is based upon a good collaboration between our team and the dealership team to make sure that we understand really what is the use case, like where are we going with this? And Peter, I have to tell you this story because I think it's hilarious. Where we lived in Florida, the 2 local Toyota dealers, both were on Numa, right? And so my wife called one of the dealers to schedule her oil change for her 4Runner, and she called me and she's like, "Hey, what's happening? Numa didn't pick up." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, I always talk to Numa when I schedule my appointment. Numa didn't pick up. And so they actually had got a phone change, and they had a new phone guy that came in and reset some of the lines. So guess what happened? It didn't go to Numa. And so then, our performance architect gets on the call, jumps over and is like, "Hey, we saw this." And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're right." And so they flipped it over. But this goes back to the complexity of the dealership, right? This goes back to all the things that have to be managed and watched and, paid attention to. And that's part and parcel of how we do it with the entirety of the process. Like, you have to be aware of all these different pieces. So I just think when you say that, it's just hilarious. And I love what Karen said and what Scott said earlier. When you take those calls off the plate of the advisor, we then get them belly to belly with the most important commodity we have in the dealership, which is a customer. That's where they need to be focusing. And so I think it's just critical that we get through both pieces of that.
And now a quick word from our sponsors. That's who powers the show.
Welcome to Leap Sales.
Sorry.
If you look at the last 4 years again, we've answered 41 million phone calls for dealers over the last 4 years with our AI platform. We've also handled over 150 million text messages. And so when you look at just those raw numbers, that's a 4-to-1, 3.5, 4-to-1 text to phone call. So I don't know. Here's what I can tell you though. I believe that the customer wants to be met where they are presently. If that is text, voice, video call, if they want to be engaged instantly.
I'm Vince Delmonico, General Sales Manager with Cruise Ford Lincoln. Larry Feldman came out and did one of our training courses. Absolutely incredible. I sat through the course myself. The engagement that our salespeople gained from it, the excitement that he brings, it was a new way of looking at things that we're already doing and how we can improve them. Love it. It's literally the best thing since sliced bread.
My name's Fareed Ahmed. I'm the founder and CEO of DSMA. So why should you use DSMA to sell your most valuable asset? The answer is very simple. It's our unparalleled approach to our clients' needs and satisfaction. Remember, DSMA, we're real people doing real deals.
Meta, Instagram, social, and your team is still waiting for ups like it's 1999. Let's be honest. Your market isn't watching TV commercials. They're double tapping and engaging with your competitors on social media posts. People are shopping these days for cars and servicing their vehicles in between watching cat videos.
All right. So now we've got Scott's answer to the customization. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. So again, going back to when I was a dealer, I worked for a couple of very large groups, Berkshire Hathaway Automotive, even when it was Van Tile, went over to Sonic Automotive as head of sales for Echo Park. It used to baffle me when vendors would come and sit in our office and we would give them, direction. Hey, I want this, that, and the other. And they would just tell me no. Or they would tell me, they would go back and go through 6 people just to tell me no. And I just never understood that. So when we built up MIA, I told our engineering team, hey, we have to be nimble and flexible. And we have to meet the dealer exactly where they are. And it's a pride in me. It's a pride for the team to be able to customize MIA to meet the dealer exactly where they are. Case in point, I have a dealer group. They got 100 rooftops. And he said, the reason you got the contract is because in the first 60 days, you guys, I went back and counted it. You guys did 60 customizations in 60 days. He goes, I've never seen a vendor that did that before. And so for a partner, an AI partner to really, truly call themselves a partner to the dealership, I believe that they have to be able to flex their workflows to meet the dealer's workflows. And if the AI partner cannot flex their workflows, then they're doing a disservice for the dealer. Because then what you're doing is you're forcing the dealer to change their workflows to meet your technology. And I just don't think that's a good approach. I do not believe that. I've been on that side, did not like it. And so I'm happy that we are able to and pride ourselves on being able to customize our workflows to meet the dealer.
So what does that process look like for a dealer? Says, listen, I want to turn it on today, or I want to get started.
Sure.
What does that look like for the dealer? Like, how does that work for someone who's maybe not as technologically savvy? And that's a car dealer,
and so right? I appreciate that you don't have an engineering degree. So I told you guys, don't approach these dealers like they got MBAs in some sort of computer science. These guys outwork everybody else in the building, and that's where they're in their seat. So let's make sure that we make this as user-friendly and simple as possible. How it looks is our implementation team and our engineers will meet with the dealer to interview them. And it's basically like a discovery call. And during that call, we know best practices. We can sit there and look at millions of calls, millions of text messages, and know best practices on how we've had success at other dealers. But we want to hear how you do business. We want to listen to your calls. We want to take those calls, take notes from those calls, listen to your workflows, how you transfer calls, your routing, your phone trees, everything. We want to ingest all of that, and we're going to counsel, and we're going to say, hey, we've seen success with this type of implementation. But you have this particular type of implementation, and we want to make sure that we give you the success that you've been realizing at store level for years to come. Also, the language. We want to see if you have a particular type of language. I call it Chick-fil-A-ing up Mia's conversation. So you might say, my pleasure. If you go to Chick-fil-A and they say, my pleasure, you might have a tagline or something like that that makes a difference in your community. We want to hear that. You might have a special pronunciation thing. We want to hear that. And we want to mold that into Mia's conversation so she can be the super employee at your store level, just like your other employees. We just don't think it is beneficial to the dealer to have the technology dictate what your workflow is going to be going forward. And so, yeah, lots of interviews, lots of discovery, and then the engineers take off. Total process time, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
We've got it down to 2 to 3 weeks to get live. And, you know, the first 2 days, it's going to be a little invasive on the meetings, but we got to get the information right. And then our engineers get to work. And if you're trying to figure out who's going to be your AI partner, I would ask, you know, what's my lift in this? You know, what am I responsible for in this as the dealer? Because some AI partners out there, they expect the dealer to create prompt engineering, to do prompt engineering, to manage their prompts, to write their prompts. And I think that's absolutely, honestly, asinine. I don't see why some of the AI groups out there expect dealers to come up with prompts, manage prompts in the library, stuff like that. That's engineering level work.
So Karen, I mean, you're obviously asked for advice on AI and phone and all that. I mean, what advice do you give a dealer on how to choose the right system? Like what have you heard out there?
Well, first of all, I want to kind of go back to something that both Derek and Scott said. I really, really like hearing the talking to the dealer, finding out what their process is and what process, because I'm going to tell you, a lot of times the dealers are not sure. And this will help them understand what the process is and then what it needs to be. So I would just interview the AI companies and decide which one seems to fit what I'm looking for. But also get some references because I like I said, I call dealers every day, and some have a really good AI, others do not. You know, I've called dealers that have an AI, and I'm calling. I don't want to make a service appointment. I'm just calling to talk to somebody, and I can't get through. So I would just say they need to use it. They need to wake up and use it. But they need to have a company like, you know, Numa or Mia that does the homework so that it's set up properly.
Thanks for that. So obviously the next question dealers are always going to have is, you know, what's the ROI here? Like, how does that, like, why should I care about this? I mean, obviously missing calls is a problem for me. I know this already. Maybe I've called my dealership, maybe I haven't. But, you know, what's the upside if I decide to, you know, use a company to help my team get there, get it done? Like, what's the, you know, what's the opportunity there? What are they going to get from it? You're muted, Derek. Go get there.
Love that. I'm trying to be cognizant of the fact that I got noise in the background.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Go ahead.
I love. Here's something that's unique. If you look at the AI companies out there, right, and you look at me and Numa, both Scott and I come from operational backgrounds, right? My last role was the COO of Ziegler Automotive up in the Midwest. We had 35 dealerships at the time, right? I look at things still to this day in the lens of what I would want operationally at my group, right? And so when we talk about this and we talk about the direction that we are going, it always comes back to what's the value proposition for the dealer, right?
Yep.
One of the things I absolutely hated as a dealer was when a vendor walked in and said, well, you know, if we schedule 3 more service appointments for you, it's going to pay for the product, right? Like, yeah, man, I get it. But those were my customers. I spent $20 million on this facility. I hired these people. I trained these people. I spent the money to drive the customers to the website, to book online, or to call a freaking phone number to schedule a service appointment. That you don't get to take credit for magically getting an appointment when those were my customers to begin with, right? If you're doing marketing and you're getting people to show up, that's a different thing, right? But when we look at this and we talk to dealers, the ROI is measured across the way that you want to see your business grow. It's not a fixed ROI, and it is going to be different from everybody, because we got dealerships, and I know Scott does right now as well, that they can't schedule another service appointment for 2 weeks because they're backed up. They're short on technicians, they're short on bays, they're short on parts. Like literally what the dealer wants and that ROI has to be discussed, and it has to be discussed every 90 days, because it's not going to stay the same. If I hire 3 more people, or I do a shop expansion, and now you can put me another 300 appointments on, open the floodgates and let the AI schedule it, right? But that's not going to be the same. You have dealers that come to Numa specifically, in our case, because they need to improve their CSI, or they want to drive more appointments, or they want to drive efficiencies in the BDC, or they're looking at the communication with their advisors and they're realizing they're failing because they aren't upselling at all, because they're just absolutely swamped with inbound phone calls, right? So each one of these use cases is going to determine a different ROI, and it's going to be based upon where we're at. The one thing that I talk about with our team all the time is don't take credit for the dealership success. Both Scott and us, our companies work with some of the most successful dealerships in the automobile business. They would be successful without us. They would be. Like, that's just the reality. What do? We drive efficiencies at scale and allow your people to be more successful. Let's figure out what that means for you particularly. That's how I look at it.
That's a great answer. Thanks for that. So, Scott,
Yes,
is the juice worth the squeeze? Why should we care? Why should we listen?
So large dealer group, I'm not dropping names here. They had a 6-month case study that they looked at, 6 people in the BDC. In the 6 months, they put up 1,800 appointments. After they turned Mia on, same time period, year later, same 6 months, but Mia was answering the call on the first ring, 3,250 appointments. Just juxtapose that from 1,800 captured appointments to 3,200 captured appointments. And that's, yes, it was traffic that they were getting in, but it's to our earlier point, they're drinking out of a fire hose. They don't have enough people to answer the calls. They had their full service advisor team plus a BDC, and they only were able to put up 1,800 appointments, which was awesome. But as soon as they turned on AI, that 1,800 went to 3,250 appointments. And that has nothing to do with the 227 appointments that were done overnight in that time period, which is icing on the cake. All these are metrics that a dealer can immediately look at and expect it to realize as soon as they leverage technology like Mia into their building, because there is no capacity issue in any way, form, or fashion. If by chance 10,000 calls were coming into the dealership, they would all get answered. And that's just something that a dealer cannot say with a straight face at this time before they leverage technology like this. So the ROI is, to Derek's point, each use case is going to have its own ROI. But to the dealer, the average dealer, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, that's your basic ROI application that you're going to try and apply. And so this is where you can realize that it's immediate impact, that you're capturing all the opportunities that literally you already paid for. You're just now able to capture them now.
And we had a comment from Wendy Reeves from the BDC. Great responses from Derek and Scott. Music to the BDC strategist here. So great news, and thanks for that. And Larry, you're driving. Obviously, you're muted. What's your thought as a former dealer on, are the bots ready? I mean, what do you think?
I think anything that can make us better and make it easier to reach customers, we have to embrace, because, again, we always talk about it, Ian. People that talk about how great their culture is are people that probably haven't checked out their own culture independently. They'd be shocked. So anything that makes it easier and better for us, as long as it's used as a tool and not a crutch, I'm all in.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. So, Peter, obviously, we're talking about problems in service. Obviously, we talked about good phone. We talked a little bit about, how difficult is the juice worth the squeeze? Being that there's always a multitude of problems in every automotive dealership, and, you can't fix them all at once, where should you start?
I really think it starts with the initial call. If we can make the initial call better, it goes back to, we got this CX event coming up in September. It's all about the customer experience. Today, the experience they want is something fast, transparent, and enjoyable. You're never going to make a car repair enjoyable because it's never going to be enjoyable. But if you can make that experience when the person calls in, the first thing they do, they have a good, pleasant experience. They're not, push here, push there, and it's just a smooth transaction. They're able to easily schedule the appointment. You're going to have a win. It all starts with the first engagement. So if we do a good job in the first engagement, it's going to make the rest of the process easier. Now they're going to come in at the time they're supposed to. Everything's being there. The service advisor is not going to be overwhelmed. They're going to be able to just spend good quality time. You're going to be able to go over the recommended service, so you're going to have less declined service. Declined service, just throwing this out there, in my opinion, being a car guy, declined service has one cost. Your service advisor does not have the time to properly explain what you're recommending to the customer. And I'm going to just go back for one more step, one further. You want to improve your overall fixed operations, fix the declined service, because key problem with declined service is you got technicians back there that don't like writing MPIs up because they feel, why waste my time doing an MPI? Because the service advisor, they're not going to present and try and sell the work that I'm recommending. So by giving the service advisor the time he needs, you're going to solve a lot of problems that you're not even realizing, but you're going to get service advisors doing a better job selling, because now you've got the technicians who are going to take the time to write up the proper MPIs and present the opportunity. And at the end of the day, dealers, you're going to make more money. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, I mean, we had Ed Roberts on talk about mobile service, and I think he has 57 mobile service vans out there on the road now. I guess my question, and I'll start with Karen because we haven't talked to Karen in a while, so I don't want to ignore Karen there. What's your opinion on what dealers should fix first in service, and is mobile one of those things you prioritize other than declined ROs?
Well, I don't think all dealers have the ability to have 50 service vans, mobile
Yeah.
service vans.
Yeah.
But I think what dealers need to fix first is that incoming call. And if they, like I said, mystery shop their store and find out how poorly the call is handled and start paying attention to what that means to the dealership, what it means in revenue, what it means in repeat customers, what it means in selling another car. It's proven that if people have a positive experience in service, and that starts with calling in to make a service appointment, they are more likely to buy their next car there. And it seems like dealers seem to lose sight of that fact. And perhaps with AI and hearing from like Numa and Mia, they're starting to recognize, maybe we need to pay more attention to those incoming service calls. And I think it can make a huge difference, not just in the revenue today and giving those advisors time to sell service, but just creating the experience for the customer so they are more likely to buy their next car.
Fantastic.
Because that's really the best source of sales. And too often they lose sight of that fact.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I can throw a hard stat here. We did a big project with some OEMs lately, and if you can get a customer in 2 times a year for 36 months, you have an 81% chance that you'll sell them the next vehicle.
Yeah.
If you go down to 1 time a year, it drops into the 50s, and if you get to 0, you're down into like 18%. So when we talk about where Karen's going with this, I think, is that service retention is truly one of the most critical pieces of what forward-thinking dealers are paying attention to. And unfortunately, everybody on this call knows your pay plan is your job description. And today, service advisors' pay plan is not written towards service retention. It's written towards gross, right? It's written towards hours. It's written towards what's ringing the cash register right now. And we have to have somebody that's operational, that's looking at this with the eye to the future, that says, not only do I need 2 times a year for fixed absorption, but I need 2 times a year so that I retain that customer in sales in 36 to 60 months, right?
Good.
And this is one of the things that's critical. And because AI does such a good job with that initial call, because we are able to get the appointment scheduled with less friction for the client and no callbacks, like that's game changing. And we see a definite correlation between ease of scheduling appointments and service retention. Like there's a huge correlation between that. I know it's not causality, but there's a huge correlation. And the other thing, Peter, one of the things that amazes me is that dealers think because we fixed a car, that's going to make the customer happy. Nope. That's their minimal level of expectation. When they come to the dealership, their expectation is you're fixing the car. That's what they expect. You can actually have a bad repair with good communication and have a happier customer than if you had a good repair and bad communication. It's insane to think about it from that standpoint.
Good point.
But that's their expectation. And so the communication aspect of this that we're talking about, when AI frees up your manpower to actually do the right things in communication, that's when the dealership grows. That's when the dealership sees that increase in CSI. That's when they see that increase in service retention. If you can get a 5% lift in service retention over the course of a year, it's ridiculous what that translates out to for the average dealer in additional parts and labor sales. That is something that is so powerful. And we in service lag sales by 18 months, right? We've had some really good years in sales, and that business is now coming through. The problem is we lose them as soon as we make it difficult to schedule the appointment. The first time they need an oil change and they don't get a call back, they stop at Jiffy Lube and we never see them again. We lose them. The first time they need tires and somebody else sells them tires, we never see them again, right? And so the reality is that's what AI is doing, is taking that friction out of the experience so that we get the customer deeper in the process consistently, and we can retain them in service and then ultimately retain them in sales. So I think those were all great points that we kind of put a little bow on there.
Well, here's a little stat that we got from a show, and this was on, I think, mobile service. Do you know how many other options a car customer has before they service at a car dealer in 2026 in the United States market?
I don't even know, but I know that it's a significant amount.
15 other options on average.
Wow.
So you have to be 15 times better than your competition, and that could be Jiffy Lube, it could be Walmart, it could be Costco, it could be just a garage. Does not matter. You have to be 15 times better than your competition in order to capture that customer. So if you're not focused on that service level, if you're not focused on that customer experience, I always use the restaurant industry. If you had a bad experience the first time in a restaurant, you're never coming back. Like, it's not happening. But if you can get that 2 to 3 time good experience, you're going to get there. So what do you think, Scott?
Listen, when I talk to a lot of my dealers, what I'm seeing is a lot of the OEMs are incentivizing mobile repair.
Yeah.
That is the future. They're throwing extra money out there so that if you're landing a mobile repair appointment, instant cash for the dealership. And so being able to efficiently translate that consumer and always offering that mobile service is something that we've recently started getting into by the dealer request. We're learning this as relationships with dealers are growing, and this is something that's absolutely important to the dealer. And so if the dealers already set up for mobile appointments in either their service schedule or on the website, something like that, we've been able to automate a lot of those opportunities and streamline it for the dealer. Again, the efficiencies that lead to a great experience for the consumer. Absolutely important. We have to be in the space. Anything that's coming down the pipeline that's going to make the experience better for the consumer, we need to be on the forefront of it. And we need to be participating and partnering with the dealers in those spaces so that we can make this the best experience for not only the consumer, but for the dealer. And the consumer gets the benefit first, right? And if we make that experience best and paramount, then it's triple up economy. The dealer benefits on the secondary. So we have to meet that consumer. And if mobile service is the key, and OEMs are putting the initiative out there, hey, we'll pay more for mobile service. We need to be able to service that for the dealer and for the consumer and for the OEM simultaneously.
Yeah, if you're interested in mobile service, we did a show on it. We had Ed Roberts and from David Long Dealerships, we had their commercial service guy on. Not only is it the service that you're doing out there in the community, it's the retention for other people around where those vans are.
Yeah.
But the compensation piece is also very, very important because they're going to have windshield time. So the thing you got to remember when you're looking at that from a dealer perspective is, A, you should be doing it because you're capturing more customers in the community around your location, whether you have one van or 50. but more importantly, you're capturing other people in that household or in that office environment that you're not touching now because they don't know who you are. They just don't know that. And if you're looking at that metric that Derek said, where you're looking at it going, okay, I need the first 3 visits or the first 2 visits. If you're booking a mobile service appointment right out of the gate, the chance of you retaining that customer is very, very high. And that's not me saying that. That's the people that were on that show. So if you want more context, you can definitely check out that episode. But we're almost out of time. So Larry, why don't we start with you with last thoughts, and then we'll jump to Karen, and then we'll fill everyone else in. Go ahead, Larry.
Sure. Peter said earlier we maybe can't make a dealership a service experience. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm in a damn car. He said we can't make it enjoyable, but we don't have to make it miserable either.
Yeah.
There's a way to make things easier and better for customers, and to not do that, to not realize that they're not annoyances, they're annuities, is really ridiculous on our part.
Mm-hmm.
I like everybody's comments, and I love that statistic where if you get them in twice a year for 36 months, you got an 81% chance. I'm gonna keep that. Great stat. Thank you, Derek.
Yep. Thanks for that. Karen, final thoughts? We're almost out of time.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. Go ahead.
I think just having dealers understand the importance of they know how they feel if they're trying to call someplace for some other reason and they can't get handled properly. And sometimes they lose sight of the fact that that's happening at their store. And just having the ability to, I guess, enlighten them so that they understand the importance and what that means. And just like, Larry and Derek just said, getting that customer back in. And the other example I think that was given was you go to a restaurant and have poor service, you don't go back there. And the same thing happens many times at a dealership. So I think the importance of understanding that and giving that customer what they're really looking for, and that's the ease of making the appointment, talking to somebody, and being taken care of when they're in service, and not just come in, write the RO, and I'll call you later kind of thing, because the advisor's phone's ringing.
Right. 100%. Derek.
I think it's easy to generalize, and I love what we're talking about, because at the end of the day, each individual dealership is unique. Like I know everybody on this call has talked to a dealer, and first thing they've said to you is, you don't understand, our business isn't like everybody else's, right? We get that. Like, that's the reality of where we're at, and people choose to do business differently. We have to maximize operational efficiencies with AI. We have to minimize the burden on the humans, and we have to let AI do what it does best, which is repetitive tasks and handling these things, so that we can free our humans up at the dealership to be belly to belly with the customers. That's the end goal, period, end of story, right? And at the sake of sounding cliched, let the AI handle that repetitive work and just be done with it. Just get your people to the next level.
Fantastic. Mr. Scott, final thoughts.
So, final thoughts, retail operations in the automotive business are changing forever. And you either got to realize it fast, or your competitors are going to realize it first and have that advantage over you. There is a false narrative in this space that the AI is coming to take their job. That's not true. The AI is coming to make the job a whole lot easier and create an opportunity more efficiently for human and humans to connect. And that's where the magic happens. And so I think we have to appreciate that we're at this crossroads with technology and automotive happening right in real time. In real time, this is happening right in front of us. And I would encourage dealers to get uncomfortable. I would encourage dealers to do the research, start having the conversations, and understand how this technology can make their operations a whole lot easier and more profitable. They didn't pay the money for marketing. They paid the money for the ads. The phones are ringing. The problem is they can't handle all the volume of the phone calls that are coming in their store. And this is where you need to leverage technology like myself, Mia, or Numa or any other partner out there and explore it, how we can implement this in our dealership operations right now before my competitor across the street gets this launched and I miss out on all this competitive advantage.
Thanks for that. Peter, final thoughts.
Final thought, I want to thank everybody for their time today. And for all the dealers out there that are not ready to go engage with AI at this point, they've got their BDC, they've got a good handle on it. I will drop one tip from a store that I visited last year. In their BDC, they have a monitor that has a camera attached to it so they can actually look up and see what's going on the service drive, who's at their desk. So when a call comes in, before they go just randomly transferring the call to one of their 12 service advisors, they can look up and see who's available, who's got the time, so they can pick who they're going to send that call to. It's one little thing that this dealership did to improve their customer experience, and it worked phenomenally because now, instead of the customer's call getting transferred to a service advisor who's busy and going to voicemail or just going a ringback, the BDC can look up, oh, okay, Peter's available, doesn't have anyone at his desk, he's not on the phone, let me transfer the call to them. Just a simple little tip, you may want to look into it. Feel free to call me, I can tell you more about it. But again, thank you everybody for your time today. And I think this was a phenomenal show. I know I learned a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not focused on service and calls, you should be. If you can't do it, the $150 that you should be doing, obviously you want help there. Obviously Numa and Mia can help there. Karen can help in other areas. And definitely check out the customer experience episode as we prepare for the customer experience show in Detroit in September. And thanks for the support. Have a great day and a great week. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for helping the industry get better today live.